I first met Charlie Kirk in December of 2023. I was attending America Fest, the Turning Point USA convention, the large convention that takes place every year in Phoenix, Arizona. I was there with my colleague from Israel 365, Rabbi Eli Michel, and a few other friends, and we put together a small Shabbat dinner, a Friday night dinner, because the conference took place over a Shabbat. One of the members of our group had let Charlie Kirk's office know that we were doing this Shabbat dinner, and lo and behold, Charlie showed up, and we had a wonderful conversation, and we spoke about Shabbat, and we spoke about the meaning of Shabbat in Charlie's life. We talked about how he had started keeping the Jewish Shabbat, that he and his wife would shut everything down for 24 hours. And here was Charlie Kirk, who had built the largest grassroots political organization in America, who was one of the most famous people in America, busy, and everyone wanted a piece of him. Everyone wanted to talk to him all the time. And yet, every Friday, as the sun went down, he would turn off his phone, put it in a drawer, and spend the next 24 hours with his family, with God. His staff knew that he was unavailable because it was Shabbat. And he talked about how beautiful this experience had been and what transformation it had made in his life. And he talked about the fact that he had planned to write a book, that he was writing a book about Shabbat. He even said what the title was, Stop in the Name of God. He was talking about the fact that the book was getting ready to be published. I think it's even available for pre-order on Amazon now. And here was Charlie Kirk, a major political figure. On his show, he talks about political issues and about civilization and about saving America. And here, the book that he chose to write was about Shabbat, about the meaning of the biblical Sabbath and how it transformed his life for the better, to use his words. And in our conversation about Shabbat, I shared with him this idea that Shabbat can transform your family life is right there in the Ten Commandments. That the first three commandments are all about God, about faith in God, and about proper worship of God. The fourth commandment is Shabbat. The fifth commandment is about children honoring their parents, followed by all of the societal morality in the last five commandments. And what I pointed out to Charlie was that the order of the Ten Commandments speaks to the transformation that he had experienced in his life. We keep Shabbat because we're honoring God. That's what it comes from. The first three commandments are about honoring God, and then is the Shabbat. But what follows the Shabbat, what emerges from observance of Shabbat, is stronger families, parents honoring children. What emerges from stronger families is a healthier society. That was our first conversation at that Shabbat dinner back in 2023. Subsequently, we became friendly. I've appeared on his show a few times. And over the last 6 months or so, we were in a regular chat relationship online, speaking about issues related to Israel. And Charlie had criticisms for the state of Israel. He was very supportive and really loved the state of Israel and the Jewish people, but he also had his criticisms. And it really hurt him when the Jewish community came down on him for platforming certain speakers at his last conference who were anti-Israel and even slid into anti-Semitism. And while I was not happy that Charlie had given the stage to people like Tucker Carlson who were spewing venom about the Jewish state, I understood where Charlie was coming from. Charlie was a big believer in the open marketplace of ideas, in allowing all opinions to be heard, letting the best opinions win. That's why he built his career on those famous debates, going to college campuses to engage in honest dialogue, letting every opinion have its moment and letting people decide what is true. And therefore, he really believed, to a fault, I believe, in allowing every single voice to be heard. Now, again, was I happy that he was platforming people who were spewing anti-Israel and anti-Semitic messages? Of course not. But when so many people in the Jewish community and the pro-Israel community were criticizing Charlie so harshly for platforming these problematic voices, he was very hurt. And he was hurt because what many people don't realize is that Charlie spent a lot of his time defending Israel, both publicly at the college campus events that he was so famous for. Many people don't realize that upwards of 40 or 50% of all of the questions Charlie would receive, the challenges that he would get at these campus events from students, were attacking Israel and attacking Charlie for being so pro-Israel. And also privately, there were many other prominent people in the America First movement who would privately speak to Charlie and message him, trying to get him to drop his support for Israel. So he was out there defending Israel on a regular basis, even with all his criticisms. It really hurt him when there was this harsh criticism calling him all kinds of names because he was willing to platform voices the pro-Israel community or the Jewish community were uncomfortable with. Now, again, I didn't agree with all of the choices Charlie made, but just understand where it was coming from. It was coming from an honest belief in the open marketplace of ideas. And that brings us to another point about Charlie and what is lost with his loss. The America First movement, the MAGA movement, whatever you want to call it, is really made up of a lot of different groups within it, factions, like a coalition government. A coalition of groups that don't always agree on everything, that have some fundamental disagreements about big issues, but are unified within the big tent of the America First movement, the Trump-supporting movement. The only person in that entire movement who had credibility and respect and the ability to speak to all the groups in the movement, to unify them all, was Charlie Kirk. I fear for the cohesion of that movement, of that powerful and important political movement with Charlie gone. I also fear for support for Israel within that movement, where we see the younger generation in the politically conservative movement in America are moving away from support for Israel, being affected by so much negative messaging and anti-Israel propaganda, and Charlie would hold the line. The very final meeting that Charlie held, a meeting that I was honored to be a part of, was the night before he went out on this campus tour, the night before his first stop, as it was supposed to be, in Utah, where he was so horribly and tragically murdered. The night before that, Tuesday evening, at the end of the workday, we had a meeting. It was a Zoom call that Charlie had called to meet with a few close associates that he trusted to speak about Israel, to speak about issues about Israel, because he was about to go out on a campus tour, and he was anticipating all of the challenges and attacks that he would get relating to Israel, and he wanted to make sure that he had the facts and that he knew how to respond. So he called this meeting to prepare himself, essentially, to defend Israel. Think about that for a minute. Here he was, getting ready for his campus tour, and the final meeting that he had before the tour was to prepare himself to defend the Jewish state from the attacks that he knew were coming. And it drove him crazy that he got so many questions about Israel. It actually bothered him because he wasn't out there to talk about Israel. He was out there to talk about America. And yet, because he was such a prominent supporter of Israel, and there's so much anti-Israel sentiment on our campuses, he was constantly being attacked for his pro-Israel positions. So the Jewish community, the pro-Israel community, the Israeli community owes a great debt, and we must show our gratitude to this towering figure who really defended us and really held the line against a lot of anti-Israel hatred out there, even with all of his disagreements with our government and decisions that he made that maybe some of us in the pro-Israel community were not comfortable with. He was a great friend and someone that we really have to be grateful walked this earth and defended us so strongly and so proudly with such courage and such clarity. He'll be sorely missed. I'll miss him as a friend, as someone who I got to know, I was honored to know. In the Jewish community, the Israel community, the Israel supporting community, we'll miss him greatly. And Western civilization that he was out there defending and speaking up for at a time when so many don't have the courage to speak clarity about the threats to Western civilization, the threats from Islam and from Marxism. And Charlie spoke with a proud, courageous voice, and he will be sorely, sorely missed. Charlie Kirk, rest in peace.
And it says very, very clearly in the scriptures, for 6 days you shall work, and the seventh day you shall rest. If you are feeling overrun by society, you might be feeling depressed or anxious, here's just one way that you might be able to improve. Turn your phone off for 1 day. No contact, no social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. That is a day to go be with God. That is a day to read your Bible and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness and the anger and the noise of this world. Go back to God's natural rhythm, and it's made our family much tighter knit. And I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges all back up.